Wow. Would you look at that? Look how tiny. Huh. Just thinking about how small the eye of a needle really is. Tiny. Could you imagine a camel squeezing his way through there? I can't even imagine our cat squeezing his way through the eye of that little bitty old needle. You know, the Bible tells us that in Mark chapter 10, verse 25, it says that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of that needle than what it is for a rich man to enter into heaven. Good grief. That's an impossibility. Well, Jesus made this statement right after there was a young man who was a ruler of Israel, and he came to Jesus, sincerely fell down at Jesus' feet and said, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" This man was sincere. He really wanted to know what he needed to do to live forever with Jesus Christ, to rule and reign in his kingdom, just like you and I want to. So Jesus told him, "Sell everything you have and you give it to the poor." The Bible tells us that he walked away sorrowfully because he had a lot of money. He was rich. He was wealthy. And so he couldn't trade it in. Well, right after that, that's when Jesus made this bold statement that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than what it is for a rich man to enter into heaven. Now, there is a couple of schools of thought on the eye of the needle. There's a small archway, like hole in the wall that a camel could or could not, depending on the size of the camel, squeeze through, or this actual needle. If you continue reading on in the book of Mark chapter 10, his disciples begin to question Jesus, and they say, well, then who could be saved then if it's that impossible? So I don't think they were probably thinking about the hole in the wall. I think they were thinking about this actual needle, because Jesus made it sound like an impossibility to inherit eternal life if you were rich. He didn't make it sound like a complete impossibility, but he said it was easier for a camel to go through here than for a rich man to enter into heaven. Why would Jesus make such a statement? Well, he went back and later on clarified in that chapter exactly what he meant. What he meant was, it's just like the rich young ruler. He didn't have to depend on God for anything. He could buy his way out of anything because he had money. And so many times when we have things, we don't go to Christ like we should. We have stuff, so why do we need to pray? You ever wonder why you're in need so many times and you have things that you need? It seems like God doesn't answer your questions. Maybe it's because it's the only time that you trust him. As a chaplain, I take care of a lot of different people, and I was taking care of an elderly lady whose husband had died and her son had took over their farm. And she told me, she said, "You know what the best thing was about being a farmer?" And I said, "What's that, ma'am?" And she said, "The best thing is God had to provide everything for us. We had to really trust him. And even on the Sundays that we really needed to get stuff done, we went into church and we gave God our very best first. And because of that, God always gave us the very best." Sometimes when we have professions that don't always lead us to that, maybe it is a little impossible for us, and it may seem like the eye of this needle is going to be the thing that is going to be impossible for us to get into heaven. But Jesus made it clear we don't get into heaven on our own merit. So even the poor don't get in on their own merit. The reason why it's harder for the rich man is because he's got it already. He doesn't need to trust in God for everything. You know, when my wife and I first started out in marriage, we didn't have very much. We were dirt poor. In fact, I'm filming in front of our house that we just purchased 4 years ago. And this is a blessing, a godsend to us. Because we were depending on God for absolutely everything. This was a building that was about to probably fall in on us if we didn't do something with it sooner. We just never had the money, and we depended on God. We trusted in God for that. And because of that, I'm proud of the home that I own, and I'm proud of the home that I live in. Even though the bank owns a good majority of it, I'm proud of it because God had helped us to get to where we are to be able to make that purchase. And somebody who doesn't have that, and has it just handed to them, doesn't appreciate it probably in the respects as much as what my wife and I do. And I think God is trying to get our attention this morning the same way. To remember, this stuff's only stuff. His life is eternal. The rich young ruler walked away from something that was eternal to hold on to something that was temporal. What are you holding on to today? What is it that God is asking for you to just let go of so that you can trust Him? Maybe it's not riches. Maybe it's a lifestyle that you're afraid that if you let go of that lifestyle, that you're going to walk away from everything and get nothing in return. I promise you today that when you put your faith and trust in God, that no lifestyle is worth holding on to, because it just may find yourself a walk through one of these. God bless you and have a good day.